All right, let's jump into rule of fours. Rule of fours is an easy way to make an educated guess on how many primary teeth should be present in a child at a given age. The rule of fours works by assuming 4 teeth erupt in the mouth every 4 months starting at 7 months of age. For instance, at 7 months of age, theoretically a child should have 4 teeth erupted, the mandibular and maxillary central incisors. 4 months after that, or at 11 months of age, an additional 4 teeth will have erupted. These 4 teeth will be the mandibular and maxillary lateral incisors, and so on and so forth. Another important thing to know about the rule of fours, it is based on the sequence of eruption of primary teeth. As you know, the sequence of eruption for the first quadrant is A, B, D, C, E. This means that the first molars erupt prior to the canines and the second molars. Let's do some examples. At 10 months of age, how many and what teeth will be erupted typically? I'll give you a moment to think about it. Alright, so the correct answer would be 4 teeth. It is just your central incisors. We know this because at 11 months of age, we'd be expecting the lateral incisors to erupt. So how about at 17 months? Doing the math, we know that at 7 months, 4 teeth will have erupted. At 11 months, 8 teeth would have erupted. And at 15 months, you'll have 12 teeth erupted. So we know that at 17 months, 12 teeth would theoretically be erupted. And these teeth would be your central incisors, your lateral incisors, and also your first molars, following the A, B, D, C, E pattern. Okay, so our last example is at 25 months. How many teeth would you have erupted? At 25 months, all primary teeth should be erupted. Following the math we know, 4 teeth are erupted at 7 months, 8 at 11 months, 12 at 15 months, 16 at 19 months, and all 20 of your primary teeth should theoretically be erupted at 23 months or right before the patient is 2 years old. It's important with all of this to understand that this rule is not always correct, and clinically that you will have patients that are delayed or premature. However, it is a good way to predict average expected development. Okay, so the last thing we'll talk about today is permanent tooth eruption. We'll be going through a diagram, so feel free to draw along on your paper. Start by drawing the midline as it is at the center of your mouth. Then continue by drawing 4 boxes, 2 on either side of the midline. This represents the central incisors. Adjacent to these, you'll have your lateral incisors represented by rectangles. Next to the lateral incisors, you'll have canines. These are demonstrated by triangles that give you a good landmark to compare other teeth in the mouth to. Next to the canines are 2 sets of premolars. We can have the premolars represented by circles. Remember, premolars are the teeth that replace primary molars. Lastly, you'll draw in 3 sets of molars on either side of the diagram. Let's also have them represented by circles, but maybe bold them or make them a different color. Now let's get to talking about when things actually erupt. At 6 years old, you'll see your first permanent teeth begin to erupt. These teeth will be your mandibular central incisors, as well as your 6-year-old first molars, both bottom and top. As a point of reference, the 6-year-old molars will be coming in behind primary molars. At 7 years old, we expect 3 teeth to erupt on either side of the midline. These teeth will be the maxillary central incisors and mandibular and maxillary lateral incisors. So just draw a large 7 over top of all 3 of those teeth. 9 years old is the next time we will expect a tooth to erupt, and it will be the mandibular canine. At 10 years old is when all of the premolars should theoretically replace your primary molars. So draw a large 10 over all of those 4 circles, representing your premolars. 11 years old is when you'll see the maxillary canine finally come in and join the mandibular ones. 12 years old is when you will have your second molars erupt, which come in behind your first molars. They are sometimes known as your 12-year-old molars as well. Lastly, 18 years old is when you will expect your third molars or wisdom teeth to erupt. You'll see there's kind of a pattern, and if you draw this diagram out a couple of times, you'll better understand eruption sequence for permanent teeth. As we mentioned with primary teeth, it's not always a perfect equation, but it kind of gives you a good average of when to expect permanent dentition.